Thank you. My name's Evelyn Namubiru, a mouthful, so I don't blame you for stammering over the name. Ladies and gentlemen, honorables, bishops, fathers, participants, it is indeed an honor for me to be here and to speak to you all about rights to food. I work for an organization called Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, and I'm responsible for anything to do with land, environment, policy, and gender. In a world that is overflowing with riches, it's outrageous that almost 900 million people are hungry or malnourished, and that every year over 6 million children die from starvation or related causes. We know that if a person is not well fed, they are prone to diseases, they are unable to produce, and therefore this not only affects the immediate family, but also affects the economy and the nations, and really the global world. While the rest of the world has made significant progress in addressing food security, Africa is still lagging behind, especially the sub-Saharan Africa. Kenya is not doing very well. I know that some people said that in the morning that some parts of Kenya are food secure. For sure, some parts are insecure. According to a recent report by the Kenya Food Security Steering Group, which is the Kenya Food Security Outlook, the acutely food insecure population in Kenya has increased from 1.3 million in February to 1.5 in August, and it's expected to increase until October. The situation is especially worse in pastoral areas and in southeast area of Kenya. We must do something. The right to food is a human right. All human beings have a right to have nutritious food, to live with dignity, and to be free from hunger, from food insecurity, and from malnutrition. It is also a legal right, protected under the human rights and humanitarian international laws. For example, in the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, Article 25, and also in Article 11 of the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, they clearly show that everyone has a right to food. Everyone has a right to have food security. I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, nobody really wants to be near me. I'm not able to produce. It's very easy to get sick. And this is what is happening in many parts of the world. This is surely something that can be done. We must take urgent action now, and we should be proactive, not reactive. I think one of the greatest problems we have in Africa is that we tend to wait for a problem to arise, and then we quickly try to find solutions. It's unfortunate that while some areas have abundance of food, other areas have people dying. They have people eating dogs, although I heard from some people that that was an exaggerated story. But people should not be reduced to that level. We must also ensure that we work together. We cannot give people rights, make sure they have their rights, when we are selfish, when we don't consider our neighbors, when we don't think that it is okay, when we think it's okay for someone to sleep without food, for someone to die from hunger when you are eating sausages, chicken or pilau for breakfast, and then some people don't have anything to eat. Is food security really just about food? I'm sure there are so many experts here who would really define food security. So I won't go into that. I think what we should think carefully about is the fact that without food, or if there is food insecurity, there are many other sectors in the economy that are affected. Health, social justice, environmental degradation increases, and even conflict. Food security is indeed a right for everyone. It's a right for men, it's a right for women, it's a right for the young and for the old. Meeting these rights will require short and long-term solutions and responses to raise productivity of food, accessibility, and certainly efficiency in the use. There are many things that can be done, and we at AGRA are trying to do these things. At AGRA, we try to address poverty, food insecurity, by working across the value chain. We try and help smallholder farmers address their seeds problems. We need in Africa to start using improved seeds. There's so much debate going on about GMOs. And I should say here that at AGRA we don't support GMOs. But then there are so many improved seeds that are not being used by farmers. Farmers cannot access them, they're expensive. The national institutions responsible for producing these seeds are not doing their job. Extension workers are unable to deliver these seeds to the farmers. These are things that will help address the food insecurity problem, not only in Kenya, but in other parts of the world. We also work on soil health issues. You can have a good seed, but if your soils are problematic, it will not grow. We help farmers have access to markets. As you know, there are many post-harvest losses because the farmers are unable to access markets and sell their products. Then how will a farmer be able to educate their child so that the child doesn't end up with a food security problem? Then we also help farmers to access innovative finance. Governments need to ensure that farmers are able to access finance, not only to secure the land on which they're farming, but also to have good agricultural inputs, fertilizers, drip irrigation. We are still lagging behind when it comes to irrigation, and that's something that needs to be addressed. We will not be able to address food problems unless we improve or pull up our sources. We also have an organization that is called FOSCA, which is Farmer Organization Center, which supports farmers. Farmers work in groups, especially women. We need to be able to support them so that they can have their right to food security. We also work on policies. Many policies are hindrances to addressing food security problems. And this is now compounded by climate change. If we don't do something about mitigation, about adaptation, about resilience, we won't be able to prevent a crisis from happening in a few years. More and more of the land is getting dry. I'm sure you all know that the land sizes are getting smaller. And there are so many problems that need to be addressed. Policy-wise, the policymakers need to work on addressing this. I should say here that I was intrigued by the findings of the report this morning that was presented. It also shows that productivity is getting lower. They said 75% of the participants clearly articulated that productivity is lower. Most people also, unfortunately, farm on inherited land that is usually not secured. They also showed that women's rights and access to land and to agricultural products is still a problem. And yet we know that women are playing a pivotal role in the maintaining and strategically using land resources. Because of the gender relations in these local areas in our countries, many women and children are reduced to minority positions, and therefore they are unable to make decisions about agricultural products, decisions about what land to use. So all these issues need to be addressed. We need to also improve extension and capacity and build capacity, not only of the extension workers, but also of the policymakers, of the people in the big offices, because they need to be educated on how can I ensure that the people on the ground have the rights to food, their rights are met. We need to minimize pre- and post-harvest losses. It's really unnecessary. And this is something that can be done very easily. I was talking to a sister just this afternoon who was telling me that she does social work in a village. So I told her that essentially you are an extension agent, and indeed she is. We need to be able to move this information to the farmers, to be able to prevent food loss, to be able to access information that will help them in their productivity, in using food wisely. So that, yes, you might prefer ugali, but what kind of ugali should you be eating? What kind of maize flour should you be eating that will be nutritious to you? So these are the issues that I think need to be addressed. Now, as I conclude, and I could go on and on because my specialty, as I said, is land and environment, but I think I'll stop here. As I conclude, I'm calling about the governors that are here and that are not here, the MPs, the senators, the local leaders, bishops, reverends, sisters, mayors. I could go on and on, to really do something. It is very shameful if you have a constituency that has starving people. These are simple things that can be put in place, or measures that can be put in place to address food hunger, to address food insecurity problems. We just need to work together. And in working on those things, we should not forget the indigenous knowledge. We sometimes think that because we have PhDs, we really understand the environment and how to address these issues better than the farmers that have been farming their land for years and years. There are many ways that these things can be done that have farmers in a way are already adapting to climate change and to food insecurity problems. We need to learn from them. We need to harness this information, package it in a way that is useful, and be able to address food insecurity problems, and ensure that everyone has a right to food and that they don't live a life of indignity. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I thank you.